Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the October 2023 SBIF District Rollout. My name is Kim Brisky. I am with SummerCore, the administrator of the SBIF grant. On behalf of DPD at the City of Chicago, we'll be getting started in just one moment. Again, good afternoon and welcome everyone to the October 2023 SBIF District Rollout. My name is Kim. I'm here with SummerCore, the administrator of the SBIF grant on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development in the City of Chicago. We're going to get started in just a moment with our presentation. As a reminder to everyone, all attendees will receive an email after this presentation with a copy of the PowerPoint. You can also rewatch this video on DPD's YouTube page. Additionally, if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to enter them in the Q&A box on your screen. We'll get started in just a moment. All right, everyone, let's get started with the presentation today. Again, we're going to be covering the October 2023 SBIF District Rollout. And to start us off, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Kryzak with DPD. Frank?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Frank Kryzak, and I'm with the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, or DPD. Representative from the city's SBIF administrator, SummerCore, will be making our presentation today. I just wanted to welcome you all. So just quickly, the SBIF, the Small Business Improvement Fund, known as SBIF, provides grants to small businesses and property owners to make needed improvements to their property. Over the last few years, we've made a lot of exciting changes to the SBIF program, including increasing grants available to you and adding $100 million in new funding to TIF districts across the city of Chicago. In addition to available funding, SBIF offers technical assistance from SummerCore and your local delegate agencies. So when you submit your application, you'll be assigned to SummerCore project manager, and that person is there to help you through the SBIF process. If you run into any issues that might delay your project, make you miss deadlines, or any other issues, call your SummerCore project manager, and they should be able to help you solve the problem. Another great resource, as I mentioned, is your local delegate agencies, usually chambers of commerce or community development organizations, and they will be listed later on in the presentation. And again, they are here to help you with any questions or assistance you need. We're all here to support you and your application because we want to see your businesses and your neighborhoods flourish. So with that, I'm happy to introduce Sylvia, the SBIF director for SummerCore.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Again, as mentioned, my name is Silvia Orozco. I am the director of the SBIF program. I work for SummerCore. We are contracted with the city's Department of Planning and Development to administer the program. SummerCore is a not-for-profit organization. We offer small business lender SBA loans. We administer the SBIF program as well as the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program. Excuse me. Now, in its 24th year, SBIF is one of the longest running and most successful city programs. We've helped retain and expand businesses in all sections of the city of Chicago, with dispersing over $118 million to over 1,900 businesses. Please be advised that this is strictly a non-residential program. The grant cannot be used for capital. It cannot be used for operating expenses. It's specifically for infrastructure repairs. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started with today's presentation. Today we will go over what is SBIF, what is the program mission and grant parameters, how do you get started? Is your business or your property in a SBIF district? What SBIF districts are open or on deck? What are the SBIF program rules? How do you apply? What is the program timeline? And what resources are available to help? We'll go over the list of districts that are open for the month of October, as well as some sample projects. We have a question and answer session at the end, and also some SBIF facts that will be very helpful to you. Launched in 1999, the City Small Business Improvement Fund program helps promote economic development by providing small businesses and landlords with reimbursement grants for permanent building improvement cost. Residential projects are not eligible. SBIF uses local tax increment financing revenue to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved rehab or repair of their business facilities or adjacent land acquisition. Summer Corps is a program administrator contracted by the Chicago's Department of Planning and Development. Eligible applicants. Now, a property must be in a TIF district where SBIF funds are available and the SBIF is authorized to accept applications. Landlords qualify for SBIF of either commercial or industrial properties. Business owners of commercial or industrial who own or lease their places of business. Tenants with written prior approval from the property owner also qualify, as well as startups. Startups may apply with a business plan. A current City of Chicago business license will be required before final reimbursement can be made. Eligibility limits. A commercial tenant or owner-occupied applicant must have $9 million or less in gross sales per year to qualify for SBIF. A landlord of a commercial or industrial building must have less than $9 million in cumulative net worth, and $500,000 is the cap in liquidity max per individual. Industrial tenants or owner-occupied tenants are required to have 200 or fewer full-time employees. All owner-occupied properties are subject to both tenant and landlord requirements. The maximum grant amount allowed under SBIF is $250,000 per industrial property. $150,000 is the maximum for a single owner or tenant of a commercial property or landlord. $250,000 is the max that may be granted per a multiple owner or tenant of a commercial property, with $75,000 being the maximum assistance per each tenant or landlord that applies. The applicants may receive one or more grants up to the maximum program assistance. Once this maximum is reached, the applicants will need to wait 3 years to reapply. So you're probably wondering, how much do I qualify for? So if you're a commercial business and your sales and or your net worth fall between $0 to $3 million, you qualify for 90% of eligible cost. If your sales or net worth fall between 3 to 6 million, you'd qualify for 60% reimbursement of eligible cost, and sales or net worth between 6 to 9 million qualify for 30% reimbursement of eligible cost. All industrial projects qualify for 50% of reimbursement. So here we have a grant calculation example. Let's say that Grace submits an application for a SBIF grant in an open district with a total eligible project cost of $100,000. She's proposing to make permanent building improvements to her existing retail shop for which she is a tenant. Grace has been in business for 5 years. Over the last 3 years, her gross sales averaged $1.5 million. Here we have a breakdown of eligible cost. Total project eligible costs are at $100,000. As a commercial tenant applicant with gross sales under $3 million, she qualifies for a 90% rebate grant. Now, the city's responsibility is 90% at $90,000, and the applicant's responsibility is at 10% at $10,000. Keeping in mind that this is a reimbursement grant, so the project participants should be prepared with financing to support the building improvements upfront. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? You can visit our website at summercorps.com/SBIF to see if your property is in a district. Once you get to this page, you can click on number 1 to confirm your business is in a SBIF district. That is going to take you to this SBIF locator tool. You will then enter the address here, and the next page will pop up with information that pertains specifically to that address. It's going to tell you if the district is in a TIF district. It gives you the TIF district name, also delegate agency's contact information, as well as when the district is scheduled to open. So if you do not see any information here, you can always verify with Summer Corps. If you feel that that information is not accurate, you can always send us an email or give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to verify that information for you. What districts are open or on deck? Eligible SBIF districts in Chicago span neighborhoods on the north, south, and west sides. Each month marks a new 30-day period in which SBIF districts with available funds open for applications. Notice of district openings are provided to relevant aldermen, posted on the DPD and Summer Corps' websites, and are included in the SBIFgram. Again, you can visit our website for the most up-to-date list of open and on-deck districts. What are the SBIF program rules? What business and organization types are ineligible to apply? Some of the ineligible businesses include chain and franchise businesses, places of worship, liquor stores, adult use, gas stations. What you see here is not all comprehensive, so if you're unclear, you can always reach out. We'll let you know whether or not your business type qualifies. What improvement costs are eligible for SBIF? So we cover items such as roofing and facade, components of signs or awnings which are permanently affixed to the building, any alterations or structures that are needed for ADA compliance, including railings, ramps, if you need ADA accessible restrooms, widening of entry doors, things of that sort, we can cover with the program. HVAC and other mechanical systems, plumbing and electrical work, certain project-related architectural and construction management fees that are related to the approved project can be reimbursed as well. Certain environmental remediation measures, permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, and the purchase of adjacent land parcels for purpose of expansion or parking. What improvement costs are ineligible for SBIF? So SBIF does not cover any new construction, whether it's an addition, an expansion, or building from the ground up. Any standalone minor repairs or cosmetic improvements cannot be covered. If they're part of a larger project, then we can definitely incorporate those into the reimbursements. Any equipment-related expenses, such as kitchen appliances, computers, office furniture, do not qualify. There are very few exceptions to this case. For example, if you have a restaurant or a commercial kitchen, a shared kitchen, we can cover walk-in coolers and freezers, exhaust hoods, and fire suppression systems. So those are the only exceptions that are equipment-related. We do not cover any planters that are surrounding or affixed to the buildings, any outdoor dining or drinking areas, including roof decks, beer gardens, awnings, outdoor patios, do not qualify for SBIF. We do not cover any fencing, including pergolas, privacy screens, or any similar structures, parking lot construction or repair, landscaping, and interior work of residential units are not eligible for reimbursement through SBIF. What are the SBIF design requirements? In order to receive funding, the projects must conform to the design requirements, including DPD's design guidelines. Projects shall comply with the design guidelines and additional neighborhood requirements as described in the guidelines, style guides, community plans, and other planning documents that are associated with the TIF area and the neighborhood in which the property is located. Applicants are strongly advised to consult with Summer Corps and design professionals on design requirements and guidelines before drawing up plans for work. You want to make sure it's eligible before you move forward with all of that work. All applicants for commercial properties who are approved for a grant of $25,000 or greater shall be required to make at least one exterior improvement using at least 10% of the maximum amount of their approved grant, including but not limited to facade repairs, windows and doors, other exterior improvements that are eligible subject to DPD's approval. This requirement can be waived at DPD's sole discretion if the applicant can demonstrate to DPD's satisfaction that there is no exterior improvements that are needed because either the improvements have been recently completed or the exterior features of the building have been well maintained and they're consistent with the design guidelines. What measures are in place to ensure applicant complies with the program rules? Checks will be performed on all applicants during the approval stage to ensure that they are current on property taxes, that they're complying with child support laws and not indebted into the city. Any scofflaw debts that are cleared with the city via a payment plan must be in compliance before any reimbursement will be made for eligible costs incurred. Additionally, all applicants must be current on property taxes prior to any reimbursement. Each applicant will sign an economic disclosure affidavit. The grantees will be required to sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business within a 3-year period following disbursement of funds. For landlords, they are required to meet the lease-up requirements, meaning the tenants must be operating their business in the space that we covered the renovations for. In cases of SBIF reimbursement for land purchase, the proof of land ownership will be required before the reimbursement can be made. How do you apply? You can download a copy of the SBIF application at our website, summercorps.com/SBIF. To apply, you must complete the application and email it to our general inbox at sbiff@summercorps.com within the designated open acceptance period. What is the SBIF program timeline? In stage 1, the applicant is granted 20 days to supply any missing information to complete their application. So the 3-page application is just the preliminary application. There will be additional items requested to complete the application. Stage 2 is the project eligibility review phase. Here, the plans, bids, and specifications should be submitted to Summer Corps. All debts must be cured. They are granted 120 days for this phase here. Please note that stage 1 and 2 must be completed before the final review and project approval by DPD. If approved, you will receive your conditional commitment letter signaling that you are able to begin construction. In stage 3, this is the construction phase. So the construction should be completed within 10 months. Once you get that approval, there will be 2 deadlines. One is going to be the proof of permits or proof of permit application submission. This is concurrent with the 10-month construction phase. So this must be submitted within 120 days following the date of your commitment letter. So this means either a permit that has been issued for the work that you were approved for, or proof that you have submitted your permit application to the City of Chicago. Also, a requirement is the proof of financing. The applicants must provide proof of sufficient funds to complete the project. Again, 120 days following the date of commitment, the applicant must prove that they currently have sufficient equity to complete the project. They must show that they have at least 50% of the funds needed to cover the total contract price. Stage 4 is the reimbursement phase. Once the project is complete and we have all payment documentations to prove that it has been done, the processing usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks, which is processed by the City of Chicago. Unless DPD has granted an extension of time, applicants who do not complete each stage within the required phase time limits will be disqualified. A maximum of 2 extensions may be granted with DPD's approval in the case of unavoidable delay due to extraordinary circumstances. DPD may also, on a case-by-case basis, grant a grant-eligible application an additional amount of time to complete any program requirements. In such case, DPD shall have the discretion to determine the appropriate length of the extension. What is required to deem a project completed and received funds? The construction as approved must be completed. You're required to submit proof of payment documents, which include a sworn statement, invoices, canceled checks, and waivers of lien. A final site visit will be conducted to verify that the work has been done. You are required to also submit copies of the permits for the applicable work. Once we have all this in place, that information is sent to the city for processing, and in about 4 to 6 weeks, you'll have your check ready for you. What resources are available to help? Again, you can visit our website to access resources to support your SBIF project. Here we have the design guidelines available to you, a list of SBIF contractors that have been utilized by previous SBIF recipients. This is just for informational purposes only. We do not endorse any of these contractors. There's also a list of technical assistance providers and additional small business resources. We also have a list of SBIF lenders. These lenders are familiar with the SBIF process and are more inclined to lend on the basis that you will be obtaining a grant to pay back your loan. So we can do a bank assignment so that the proceeds of these SBIF grants go directly to the bank to pay off a portion of your loan. So just keep that in mind. Get to know your local delegate agencies. These organizations are assigned to assist small businesses in SBIF districts that are opening this month. So some of these may or may not be in your area. If you recognize the name, please feel free to reach out to some of these organizations for assistance. They can assist with, sending documentation over, help as a guide, to navigate you through the process. So please reach out to these organizations. So for the month of October, we are currently accepting applications through October 31st at 5 p.m. The districts that are open are Kennedy and Kimball, Northwest Industrial Corridor, Pulaski Corridor, and Stevenson and Brighton. You can submit your application via email to spiff@summercorps.com. Please allow 2 business days for Summer Corps to confirm receipt of your application via an email response. If you do not receive an email confirmation within this time, please send a follow-up message or call our main line at 312-360-3300. Applicants are responsible for making sure that submissions are received within the open acceptance period. Here we have a sample project in the Pulaski Corridor TIF District. This is TNG Corp. Doing business as Almacenes Mexico. They're located at 4052 West North Avenue. So he has utilized the SBIF program more than once. We currently have an application open for him. So he did some facade renovations, including a complete tear off of the existing roof, masonry restoration with a new knee wall, new stone, replace some steel lintels, tuck pointing, power wash, and rebuilding the parapet walls. Also, a new storefront system was installed. You will also might have noticed the new signage. The new signage was actually part of the applicant's responsibility. This type of sign is business specific, which is not eligible for reimbursement through SBIF, but as you can see, it definitely enhanced the curb appeal of the building. So that was a really nice touch on their end. What additional documents should you have on hand to submit along with the SBIF application? So as I mentioned, this 3-page application is just the preliminary application documents that are required. Now, while not everything here is required for every applicant, some of these items, are very specific based on the applicant type that you're applying as. If you're a business, you're required to file business tax returns, so that's something that you should have on hand available to us. Proof of ownership, if you own the building. Proof of site control will be required, a form of lease agreements for tenants. Some of these forms are available to you from Summer Corps, and some items here will be required on your end to submit to us. What are the financial requirements to participate in SBIF? The SBIF program is a reimbursement grant, so project participants should be prepared with financing to support the permanent building improvements. Proof of financing is not required until stage 3, but applicants are encouraged to contact their business lender or reach out to one of the lenders that are listed on the Summer Corps' website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to complete their project in phases rather than requiring 100% of the upfront cost of the project. The applicants will receive an approval for the full scope of work, and construction will be completed based on necessity and the contractor's recommendations. The phase disbursements will be based on progress or completion of eligible construction work. For example, if an applicant is approved to complete a roof tear-off, HVAC system upgrades, and the installation of a new storefront under one application, this can be completed in phases. Once the roof improvements are complete and the proper paperwork is submitted, the applicant can be reimbursed for that work, then use those funds to address the HVAC upgrades, and then repeat that process to be reimbursed for that and use those funds for these storefront upgrades. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups can apply. Again, we'd have to determine if your business qualifies as a startup. The applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of the business's income and expenses for the first 36 months of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with startup business applications. If you've only been in business for 1 to 2 years, Summer Corps will require tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Please note that bars, taverns, hotels, and motel applicants must have held their applicable license and been in business for at least 1 calendar year. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is that you have your business or your property within the city. To participate in SBIF, your property must be located in the City of Chicago, as the funding source comes from City of Chicago property taxes. If you live in another area, please call your city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small business. What if your building has both business and residential spaces? This program is primarily for business use, but there are mixed use exceptions. For these buildings, many envelope projects such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each tax increment financing district that has the SBIF program authorized in it has limited funds reserved for the program. If the demand for SBIF is greater than the available funding supply, then the lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant application may be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to waitlisted applicants. Applications for a property located in an Invest Southwest corridor shall be given priority for funding and the lottery. Applicants for a property located in a target corridor shall be second in priority for the funding and the lottery. The remaining applicants shall be provided funding if available and placed on the wait list if applicable, after applicants in the Invest Southwest corridors and target corridors have been addressed. Can SBIF be used with other City of Chicago grant programs? The answer is no. SBIF cannot be used at the same time as the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or the Chicago Recovery Plan grant programs at the same time, covering the same work. However, you may apply for multiple grants at the same time and select the best fit for your project, provided that you stay within the grant time limits. Is there SBIF funding available in my district? Every SBIF area has its own budget and the city refills it if it has TIP funds available and if there's a demonstrated need for more grant money. We also maintain an interested parties list for funds, which you can also send us an email to our general inbox at sbif@summercorps.com to join. When more funds become available or the city allocates more funds, we will let you know. The interested parties list also helps the city gauge demand for additional funding. What if I'm in a TIF and it is not SBIF? Tax increment financing is the mechanism that funds the SBIF program. If you are in a TIF district and it does not have a SBIF, please contact your alderman. Again, thank you very much for joining us today. Here we have our contact information for the SBIF team and Nora Curry, who is the director on the city's end. We have two websites where you can obtain additional information, download our applications. You also have the option to do a Google Translate on the city's website here. So once you get there on the upper right-hand corner, you have the option to select different languages. The website will change to that specific language that you choose. So again, thank you for joining us, and a copy of the presentation and a link to the video will be emailed to all attendees.
Thanks so much, Sylvia. I'm going to give everybody just a moment here. If you have any additional questions you'd like to include in the Q&A section right now, feel free to fill them in on the Q&A box on your screen. And Sylvia, I was thinking we could start off with just a more general question about the SBIF program. Can you talk a little bit about what are the most common challenges or obstacles that you see for some of our SBIF grant participants?
I would say the biggest things are going to be financing for the project and also finding a good contractor to move forward with everything. So, as we mentioned in the presentation, it's not required that you have the financing up front as you're applying. However, we want you to get started with that process as soon as possible. People think, oh, my credit is good, I'll be able to get a loan fairly quickly. Keep in mind that these things do take time, months at a time. So you want to make sure that you're properly prepared for that. And also making sure that you're working with a good team, a good architect, a good contractor to make sure that the work is being done in a proper way. And also, just get you to the finish line. So those are the biggest challenges, I would say.
Great. And just for clarification, if you have already received a Chicago Recovery Plan grant for a property, you cannot apply again for SBIF for that same place and that same work?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. So somebody asked if they applied from a previous year. Is their application still active? Or so can we talk a little bit about how long applications would remain active for SBIF applicants if they end up on the waiting list?
So if they are placed on the wait list, that wait list is active for 2 years. So if within that time frame, someone doesn't utilize the funds that are reserved for them, if they just can't make it to the finish line, or if the city happens to replenish that district with additional funds go to the waitlisted applicants before they become available to the public again.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about who actually does the actual construction on a project. Number one, can you act as your own contractor? And number two, when you're searching for the folks to do the work, does it have to be union work to be eligible?
So first off, you cannot act as your own contractor. You will have to seek, third-party contractors, which you do not have any ownership of, to obtain your bids, license, and insurance that are going to be required. And secondly, I'm sorry, can you remind me what the second part was?
Oh, I was just asking, do you need to require somebody who's
Oh,
union
union
labor to
workers.
do the work? Mhm.
No, there are no requirements with union workers, prevailing wage labor, nothing of that sort. But they are required to be licensed by the city of Chicago and provide a certificate of insurance. They do not have to be located within the city, but they do have to be licensed by the city.
Okay. I did have somebody else who came back again on the CRP grant. If they have an application for a different work, but still at the same address, could they still apply for SBIF for different work, but at that same address?
We'd have to take a look at the, work that they're looking to do to see if that is SBIF eligible, but if there's no overlap, we'd have to take into account how much was received. With the SBIF program, we have to reduce dollar for any other city funding that they have received within the past 3 years. So, for example, let's say someone received a Chicago recovery grant for $200,000 for a roof, and now they need their storefront done. So with the 200,000 already being received, that automatically disqualifies them because the max with SBIF is $150,000. So they would not be eligible for that. So it all depends on how much was received and what the work is for. So, I couldn't answer directly right now without having all the full details.
Okay. Somebody was asking if sustainability projects like an EV charging station could be something that would be eligible potentially for SBIF.
That would not be SBIF eligible, no.
Okay. All righty. Here's a great question. So does the applicant type matter? This person is trying to decide if they should apply as the property owner or the small business owner. For this person, it could be both. How would you respond? Like, what should they do in that situation?
I would say to have them apply. Basically, first thing would be to make that decision. Are you going to lease your place or are you going to operate your own business? Because that's how we will move forward with the application. So however you apply is how you must move forward. So we won't be able to make changes in the midst of, going through this process, especially because as a startup, we would require the business plan, projections, and things of that sort. So if that's your plan, that's how you should apply.
And if they're an owner operator, so they both own the space and they also operate a business out of it, what would they have to check on the application?
So they would check both landlord and business and property owner,
Okay.
or business owner and the landlord section. Property.
Okay, so if you are owner operator, you have to check both, and then are you required to fulfill both requirements for landlords as well as business owners in that respect?
Correct, yes.
Great. Let's see. I've just got new questions coming in. Can we talk a little bit about site control? There's somebody here who was saying they were in the process of buying a building for a district that's open now. I hope that person's using an SBA 504 loan. If not, and you're interested to learn more, feel free to reach out to us. But the issue is the property won't close until November, but the actual TIF district is open now for applications. Can you talk a little bit about what site control is, why it's important, and if somebody in that situation can still apply now?
Yeah, so it all depends on how quickly things will be in place. So in this case, we're accepting applications through the end of November. Through the end of October, actually. So at that point, we'll determine whether or not we need to conduct lotteries, compare the money available, compare that to what everyone is requesting. So we may or may not have to conduct a lottery in that TIF district there. So once, let's say we do need a lottery there, we're able to move forward with your application. You're granted 20 days to submit any additional application materials, which will include site control. So if you're looking to purchase the building, you need to have either a deed or title insurance already, or if you are a tenant and you're looking to sign a lease, we'd need an actual executed lease agreement within that time frame. So there is a possibility, let's say we come to a date of November 20th as your deadline, and you're set to close November 20th. You can receive an extension to, extend your deadline to submit the proof of site control at that point. However, it must be done within a timely manner. If you're looking to close, a few months from now, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to grant an extension for that time frame.
And when we're talking about site control, it's either you have the lease or the deed to show that you own the
Correct.
building. And this is important to be able to, move forward with actually doing any work. So site control is really important as early in the process as you can get that
Yes.
required.
And another thing I do want to mention in relation to that is the owner affidavit that is required for tenants. So if you're leasing a space, we do need the landlord's affidavit to be completed, which is basically his approval to give you, the authority to make changes to his building.
Let's see. Let's see. We have a question here. If the property is multi-tenant, is there a limit in how much SBIF funding the property can receive via all the different tenants?
There is a limit entirely. The property is maxed at $250,000. Each tenant or landlord is eligible for up to $75,000.
Got it. I see that we've got a question about actually looking at the 4 areas that are open for application. So I just wanted to quick answer this by going back to the page that we have that actually where you can look up your districts here. This is where I would point you to. If you are not sure, like put the addresses here of what properties you're looking at, and it will be able to tell you if you're in a TIF district and if it has SBIF. So this is where you need to go to be able to look that up rather than trying to look at a map yourself. Use the automatic tool there, and that will be helpful to you. Somebody asked if the repairs are limited to a single trade, like a plumber, like all they need is getting done is a plumber. Do you actually have to have a general contractor in that case?
You do not. You do not. But you do need at least 2 competitive bids. I always suggest that you get more than 2. You sort of get a sense of how much knowledge the person, how knowledgeable the person is on what they're speaking of and how responsive they are. So we require a minimum of 2 along with the license and insurance on file. However, I always suggest to get more.
Got it. And just as a reminder, somebody was saying that their property was not in a TIF or even then therefore not in a SBIF, and they want their property to be there so they can participate in the program. That's the time to talk to your alderman. They're the ones that determine or help determine where the SBIF districts are. Let's see as I keep going here. Somebody wanted to know if they received an NOF grant in early 2020, which was paid out over 2021 and 2022. Would that make us ineligible for this round of SBIF funding?
So again, it all depends on how much funding was received, what it was received for, and what you're seeking SBIF assistance for. So you can always contact us directly. We'll look into it a little bit further and further advise you.
Okay. I think we're just about last question or 2 here. Can you describe any other additional requirements for startup businesses to participate in SBIF? And what if you're waiting for a business license for that location too? How would that impact your ability to apply?
So we do not need the business license at this point. You do need to have your business plan and projections. We do have a template that we can send out to you. As we receive your application, if we're able to process it immediately, that will be one of the documents that should be available to you if you don't already have that information available. So definitely a business plan, projections of income and expenses. The license will be required before we can fully disperse the grants. I would double check to make sure that your business is zoned for the location that you're looking to operate it at, to make sure that you can get a license before you move too far along in the process.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up with this question here, which is an important one. They want to know, can the SBIF grant be used retroactively? They already have an active project with permitting completed and construction's already started. Can they still apply for the SBIF grant?
Unfortunately not. Anything that has been paid for and already started, we cannot cover it. If there's still something down the road that needs to be completed, let's say, springtime's coming and you need to replace the storefront system, then, we can work with you on that. But anything paid for or completed or started will not be eligible for SBIF. But something down the road, that you have not touched or paid for, we can consider that.
Great. I appreciate it, Sylvia, and thank you everybody for participating today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to send them to spiff@summercore.com and our team member can answer there. Additionally, everybody on the call today will receive a follow-up email from DPD with a copy of this presentation. You could also view it again on DPD's YouTube page. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing your applications.
Thank you.